Hello, everybody. I'm Jeremy, owner-operator of Green 13 for 15 years. Third generation auctioneer and dealer of antiques and collectibles for over 30 years.
We are Lysandra and Tony from ilovediscounts_com. With 20 years of experience across brick and mortar, Amazon, eBay, and whatnot, we have built, broken, and rebuilt resale businesses, so you don't have to.
Hi, I'm Tracy, a CPA with over 30 years of audit and tax experience and have worked with businesses in various industries. I am also a seller on Whatnot, eBay, and Etsy.
Welcome to Reselling Roundtable.
Welcome to the Reselling Roundtable, everybody. It has been one interesting weekend. So tonight, I think we're going to be talking about the recap of the first Whatnot Seller Summit. So myself and my husband, we got the pleasure of attending, and so did I Love Discounts. And since Jeremy did not attend, we took a bunch of notes and brought it back, and maybe it'll be the first time he hears some of this information that we have. But I thought I would kick it off tonight with just some stats that we heard. I have about 4 pages of notes, but I'm not going to just sit and read notes to you. We're going to just go over a few stats, and then I'm going to introduce the first new product that we were told is coming soon. So let's see. My husband's telling me I'm in the wrong seat or in the wrong spot, but we're just going with where I'm at. All right. So he's always telling me move left or right. All right. Okay, which way do you want me to move here? This way. All right, let's move. Okay. So to kick it off, the summit, they a full day yesterday. There was Friday night activities, but then there was a full day of various just sessions, just different sessions you can go to. You got to pick or choose. There's about 10 or so different sessions. There was a general session. A lot of Whatnot employees were there giving sessions, and then we had there were other sellers in there leading. A lot of the community hosts, the Whatnot community hosts, were leading various sessions. But in one of the general sessions that we went to, we were told by, and I'm not sure if this was by the CEO or one of the other Whatnot people, but Whatnot last year, so this is over the last 365 days, was a top 20 app for 144 days consecutively. That means of apps that were downloaded, Whatnot was in the top 20. It was #1 e-commerce app for 40 weeks in a row. That just speaks volumes of the same things all of us have been saying on how fast this app is growing and where it's going. And when we say #1 downloaded e-commerce app, that's higher than Amazon and Target, just to kind of put it in perspective a little bit. And of course, Whatnot attributed a lot of this to they increased their marketing budget by 10 times last year. So they're just saying that a lot of this is in relation to their increase in marketing, which is great. The more marketing they do, the more buyers they're bringing to the app, the better for all of us sellers. So before we go on to more stats or anything, I want to introduce one of the products that they said was coming soon. And this is an interesting one. I think we're going to have a lot of conversation on this. So one of the sessions they had, they talked about how they develop new products. And for me, this was the most interesting session of the day. That was one of the head engineers, and he talked about looking at what are the sellers' needs. So what are all of us asking for on Whatnot to improve either how fast we list or what we're doing or how we're selling, how we're running auctions, just all the different things. So they look at what do the sellers need, and then they look at the buyer's behavior. And they're always trying to merge those two things and make the connection between the sellers, what makes it easier for sellers, and what increases buyer's behavior or is responsive to buyer behavior. But then they even dug a little bit further, and they told us how with the sellers, you can't just look at storage units. You can't just look at clothing. All of us, if you take cards and estate sales, completely different needs, one in the way they sell and in the way that they want to use the bin or want to use the auctions. So just the application and how we're using the app as sellers varies drastically across all of the various categories. So they kind of talked about that, and then they talked about the buyer's behavior and gave us a lot of statistics that we can talk about later on the buyer behavior. So in order to help us understand how new products are brought to Whatnot, how they develop it, they walked us through a very interesting idea that they may be coming up with soon. And that was moving more towards pre-listed items. So taking your pre-listed items and making it easier to pre-list. So one of the stats that they said is that pre-listed items get 2 times more bids, 45% higher average order value on pre-listed items when compared to random listed items. So from a Whatnot perspective, it makes sense to increase the pre-listed items. From a seller perspective, what they hear is it takes a long time to sell. We're losing some of the appeal of Whatnot when we can't just go through random items, particularly if you're a volume seller. You don't want to list, 300-400, pairs of earrings. You want to be able to show them and sell them. So they start taking all this information in the ways that they're used. One of the things that they're proposing that may come to fruition, it's one of the things they're testing and working on right now, is introducing the concept of templates. And they gave us an example of clothing. So let's just say you have 100 shirts, sizes small to medium. They may be different colors, different brands. Or maybe let's just say they're all, Ralph Lauren brand, but they're all different sizes, different colors. You would be able to use a template to list 100 of them at one time. And that, by listing it, it helps drive the buyer's behavior when they're looking for that brand of shirt to your store. Right now, they're saying that they can't direct buyers into your shows or into your marketplace without better pre-listed items, without knowing, if a buyer's looking for a certain brand, they can help match that up between the buyers and the sellers. So by using these templates, the templates would, in essence, and Tony and Lysandra, jump in here too if I'm not describing it perfectly. The templates, in essence, would allow you to list high quantities of stuff with some variance, whereas you wouldn't have to list every single item, but you would be able to put 100 shirts and then change it very quickly on the go to saying it's red or blue. So then that way, when you're holding it up and you're selling it, it's a little more descriptive information, somewhat of a quality listing, I guess. It's kind of in there. It doesn't give you everything, but it's more than nothing. And then also then when you sell it on the packing list, on anything that would be emailed to the buyer on their side, they have a little more to go by. They gave a lot of reasons for it. Most of the reasoning they gave that they want to move in this direction is matching up buyers to sellers. They talked about how pre-listed items seem to do better as far as making money. And I think with that, I'm going to leave it. And I'm going to stop for right now. And I want Tony and Lysandra to jump in because we were all in the same session taking notes. So let's see what you guys have to say about it and get Jeremy's reaction.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say taking notes. However, not all of us is Tracy.
Heck nah, Tracy and I were totally taking that notebook and I was like pulling it over and I was writing stuff down and then she was pulling it back and she was writing stuff down.
So a couple of takeaways I got from this particular item was, one, the dollar amount was higher, as Tracy said, for the quality listings or the more descriptive listings over randoms. Two, they're pushing on the front page, they're pushing brand categories so that when a person comes in, they can scroll to Louis Vuitton and just hit Louis Vuitton and be able to pull up all the sellers who have something of Louis Vuitton in their show that's going on at the moment. And that might also categorize to the bin as well, but they didn't specifically state that. And they can't get that type of matching with just random listing. And third, because they're doing the auction on the outside of the wall now, it looks better. From what I'm getting, it just looks better to the customer to be able to see something other than random items sold for $82 and they have no idea what they just saw sold.
And I'm going to add a third part of this little presentation that they did that I don't feel like either one of you touched on. And what kind of spoke to me in it is that they're really one, they first started out, okay, sellers wanted a way to list things really fast. So we gave sellers random pull listings and the ability to make those. And we love them. Sellers love them. You can create 1,000 listings in about 5 seconds flat. Who doesn't love that if you're selling volume? However, as Whatnot is growing and more people are learning about Whatnot and coming onto the app, those random pull listings what they're saying is they're causing a lot of confusion with new buyers coming onto the app.
Yes.
Because random pull number 4 means absolutely nothing to them.
Yeah.
So what they're trying to figure out a way, one, to keep us sellers happy and ease of listing, and two, to be more informative and more user friendly to someone new coming onto the Whatnot platform. And they also talked about a little bit about the ability to track your orders on the back end and how those listings and having a little bit more detail in those listings would help that on the back end when you've got an issue with your order, but you've ordered 50 things in the last 2 weeks and trying to find
from the customer
Yeah,
side. So the
customer
customer,
side.
so the customer's not seeing packing slips of 19 random items. They're seeing what you've spelled out in the listing.
Correct.
Which I won't argue that. I get shipments in from Whatnot sellers and it's all random. And I do the same thing when I ship it out, right? I get it in, I look at it, I'm like, well, what the hell did I order? I have no idea what I ordered from here. So now I have to go back and look at all my video receipts.
Yeah.
So it would take that step out of it. Real quick, Kate asked if that's catering more towards the higher end brands.
Maybe.
Their initial look into when they were presenting it to us did have all higher brands, but I honestly believe that they will put every brand out there in some way, shape, or form, because the second most actionable item from a new seller coming onto the app was using the search bar. So when a new person, which is absolutely crazy. Obviously they have the data behind it. They wouldn't just pull it out of their rear end. But they said new customers come onto Whatnot and they hit that search bar and they start searching for things that they're looking for first.
They're used to that eBay app or the Amazon app where that's what you do.
Yes.
You go to that search bar and you look for the product that you want. And that's not necessarily how Whatnot works.
They did cite, if I can butt in real quick with a couple of not actual statistics, but they did cite that random polls, the conversion is poor. So from seeing a random poll to creating a buyer, they see an increase in refunds on random polls over listed items. And obviously random polls have no SEO capabilities in them. However, I think we need to step back. While we look at that, we could say, okay, I can see that. But I think we also need to step back and look at, is this more of a Whatnot view that helps the company as a whole? Or is this more of a seller view that's like, I can care less if it's SEO optimized as a seller. So I think some of the information they gave, I just want to be careful that we're just present that we got to remember how it was presented and how, who gathered the data. As somebody who gathers data herself, you could take anything and make it look any way you want it to look.
100%.
Do I get to talk?
No.
You're just chomping at the bit. We're going to keep you anticipating. We're going to do like you do for us in auctions.
So Jeremy, you go ahead, do some feedback from your perspective of what you're hearing of that for the first time before we start moving on to other things.
Okay. First thing first, everyone go do listings. Tons of detailed listings and pictures. Do it. I'm being sarcastic, obviously, but
I know because of the time involved. I'm with you.
No. It's not even that. I'm more than happy to be the outlier in this particular situation on the platform that we're on. I'm still in the phase of the belief that Whatnot has the opportunity to continue to innovate, and they're just going through the process of replicating.
with search. Live action searching should be something that's going on right now in the live action sales platform. And why they're not doing that, they have the capability of taking the information while we're verbally describing something and allow it to be searchable by keyword search in the search bar. There's
I
no
agree with that
reason they wouldn't be.
100%.
I mean, you're talking innovation. You want to play innovation. That's the kind of things that they should be putting their gargantuan amounts of investment money into. That is innovative. That is changing. You're also going to attract a younger generation. They are now driving towards the older generation of people, and I have believed that wholeheartedly because I went and did that. I was a guest speaker at that college, and everyone was under 21 to 20 years old. They're in their late teens, early 20s, and out of all of them, one of them heard of Whatnot. And that tells you how large of an opportunity they are missing because they can keep going backwards towards eBay style listings. Is that they're using this old antiquated data system and antiquated way of looking at it. That's my personal opinion, and I think there's again super innovative applications they could utilize in order to push us forward. Now, as far as
1,000%.
their statistics on listed items bringing more money makes complete sense because when you are deciding to play the volume game, it's not worth it to do that. When it's worth it to you to do that is with higher priced items. So of course those are going to have higher ticket price sell through rate. It's
Yeah.
not because of the style you're selling, it's because of what you're selling.
It's
So
the
that's an
product itself.
irrelevant statistic in my mind. That's just them trying to push because of exactly what um, Tracy was talking about. The SEO optimization helps them as an app as a whole to get exposure as opposed to the individualized seller. What's going to help individualized sellers is the things I was talking about to innovate applications like live search. You know, if we're on there, which would also be very, very helpful and would be a dual uh, um, opportunity to tell people, hey, if you talk about the merchandise a lot and describe it appropriately and be very descriptive in your verbal statements, it's going to allow the search engine to be able to take that feed of what you're saying, translate it, you know, whether that's through, closed caption coding or whatever, it's there to be
Correct.
had and allow
Correct.
people to search it and take you right to the people that are talking about the merchandise that you're interested in buying. That's, in my opinion, the things they're neglecting to do, and they're focusing on the wrong direction.
Yeah,
So,
I would love to, absolutely love to see anything I say in a show is SEO optimized and they can search and come in for that.
And we talked a
Mhm.
lot about this in Austin, Tracy, Noel, Tony, and me, because literally we all just left this morning. Tony and I are in Arkansas
Yeah,
at an Airbnb right now. So,
we're halfway home.
but we talked a lot about that. While I completely understand what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it, I feel like it should be more about taking the speech and what we're talking about within the show and then inputting it into their system the way they want it.
and
Not so much more effort from the seller side.
we also didn't discuss the fact that if you're taking, we are like you said, the time wise. If I'm putting the time into it, it's not going. It's not going on this app. It's not
Yes,
going on Whatnot
Mhm.
you're right.
because the price points. Whatnot. Did they throw a statistic about how much they're getting price point wise in comparison to other platforms? Did they
No,
say
of
they're
course
getting
not.
higher
No.
dollar amounts? No,
No,
they
I
did
don't
not
know.
no.
exactly.
No.
So we forgot that slipped our mind. That slipped the data points. And if we compare detailed listings from our platform in comparison to others, that's the
Correct.
real correlation you got to be looking at as to whether or not it's worth your time. And then that strips out the whole viability factor or potential viability factor of a long, detailed listed picture taken thing. I understand for the customer service attributes as well. I get that. New things instead of the backwardation that they're doing, that people will learn. And just like we do, and what I talk about, building your business on a fundamental principle, innovation from the ground up. Stop going backwards. They will come, they will get used to it. YouTube was a new way of searching when people got on there in comparison to the old way of search. It, you push the boundaries and keep going because they had it, and I still think they do. But I think they still keep trying to pump money into antiquated, old style ways, and that's who they're picking up. They do
I
not have younger people on on the app buying. And the next
I
generation, if they don't do something, they're going to lose them when the next person comes in and decides to take advantage of all that.
You
I
guys,
I
hey
I
guys,
do not disagree with that. Jed. Well, I'm sorry. What?
do you guys have the live on? Are you watching the live on
With a live what? What are you talking about?
on this?
Yes.
I have the photo.
Oh, okay.
Are you
So
ready? I'm gonna share with you. So this is going live, and that's what they were talking about. That's the listing versus the random, and that's what they're talking
Oh,
about. What
look at
the
Noel.
store, the buyers are looking at when they're looking at the stores.
yeah, so
Correct.
just to kind of throw a little more fuel on the fire here. Um, they threw out some other stats just to kind of make this a little interesting. Thank you for showing that. Um, buy it
Sorry about the mix up.
the buy it now. So what happens? People pre-list. Let's just think this through logically. What happens for those of us that pre-list? So if you don't have a 100% sell-through rate, so typically if you're a pre-lister and you're doing dollar starts, you have a 99 to 100% sell-through rate. If you're not doing dollar starts or very low starts, your sell-through rate's probably less. So let's just give you a 50% sell-through rate for being conservative. So you pre-list, you have 50% sell-through rate, means 50% of your items are still sitting there. What do you do with them? You throw them in the bin. But if you're doing randoms, you're never throwing anything in the bin. According to Whatnot, everything in your buy it now or in your bin has 2 times more earning power per hour than randoms do, obviously because there's no randoms there. And 40% of all Whatnot sales last year came from bin purchases. I found that statistic to be pretty darn interesting, that 40% of the sales. So they're looking at 60 to 40. I mean, let's look at it from a Whatnot perspective. 40% is a pretty good amount. I could see them wanting to capitalize on that a bit.
Yeah.
Not
I
that I'm
got a
saying I'm
comment on
for
that
it. I'm
too.
just
Out of
throwing
$8
some numbers
billion
out there.
in sales last year.
Let
How
me,
many
Oh,
of the bin
yeah.
purchases were bloops?
let me,
Exactly. And
Well,
90%,
no.
just one more quick stat. I personally don't feel that this is going to take over or eliminate random polls. Why? 90% of all auction listings that sold last year, 90% were random polls. So
Yes.
out of 100%, only 10% were pre-listed. Okay, so 90% were random. Whatnot said that constituted 8 billion random listings. If you were to take the time to list those 8 billion listings, that would equate to approximately 9 million hours. 9 million hours for everybody who ran a random last year in total to have put those as pre-listed items.
Okay. I want to make a real quick observation here. I believe that the majority of those bins that they're talking about are the place spot purchases in the card category, which is nothing that we do. That's a
Not at all.
completely different world. And they
Yes.
are counting them as bin purchases, and that is not a viable count, in my opinion. That's the
True.
Agreed.
gamification that will eventually be probably run into some situational issues. Let's just
Are
put
those
those
actually counted
situations.
as bin purchases though, Jeremy? Because they're run as auctions and then the little spin wheel goes and gives them a place. That's what you're talking about, correct?
No, I'm talking about the ones where you buy. There's ones where you buy tons of placement spots in the bin, and they
And
do
then
it.
they're randomized which one you go and get.
No, it's a different product. Well, I'll get the. I don't have the details, but I've been in those things where, and also there's a lot of people that still do the old style where they'll sell different things in the bin that is for pool purposes, for grabs, for different placements, and the next person coming up, it'll be like, okay, you buy all this stuff in the bin, and in order of the purchases of the bin at the set price, that person gets to pick a pack or something. You pull it out and crack it
Gotcha.
open,
Gotcha.
and all of that stuff is counted as bin purchases. Those are
It is.
placement so that's a whole different world. That
That's
is
a different
nothing
ballgame.
that and there and since the majority, a large percentage of their money comes from those categories, that means the number they gave you in my opinion, a flawed statistical number.
It sounds like it could be highly skewed because the numbers that they did give us, they presented it as it was coming from Whatnot as a whole. So if
Correct.
that's the case, that there's so much activity like this happening in the card category, that number is highly skewed. And we weren't supplied with any, the CPA in me, I want charts, I want graphs, I want to see what the outliers are. We weren't supplied with any of that,
I
just
want to be a
straight
category
statistics.
specific.
Yeah.
I want a
So,
category
Yeah,
specific.
yes. To break them down into categories would be a very good, viable
Yeah.
statistic.
So that would have included flash sales for Crafty
Awesome.
Fairies that
Yes.
has that. And we probably should have put an exclaimer on this, just like they did. Disclaimer. I'm sorry. Disclaimer on this when we started, just like they did when they started presenting this to us, is this might not even come down the pipeline. What they did is they took a problem that they're currently experiencing as a company and went through how they work through that problem to try to find a solution. And I agree with Tracy. I don't think they're trying to really get rid of random pull listings. They know how valuable those are for us as sellers and them as a company.
Yes.
Getting commission off of those random pulls. So they talked about we might not ever see this, but I will tell you they spent a lot of time in this presentation on it.
They sure did.
Yeah, they had too much information for it not to be. Yeah. How about something we will see? How about something they did say under the coming soon? No date on what coming soon means, but they did say Shopify integration is coming soon, which aligns with quality listings.
And if you give me 1 second.
If I can. Go ahead, Noel.
If you give me 1 second, let me just get you the right place.
While he's doing that, if I can integrate with Shopify, why am I not allowed to speak of other platforms? Just throwing it out there. Is there some deal working with Shopify here at some point?
That was just a photo that we took while they were doing their presentation there.
Yes.
My personal opinion on that, don't talk about other platforms, is approached a lot lighter now. And I think it's more they don't want you talking negatively about their platform in relation to other platforms. That was a huge thing when they first got started. That's my own personal opinion. I still have a tendency to say the bay or the river when I'm on,
yes,
Whatnot talking. That's just ingrained in me now. But I don't think they're going to come. I don't think it's as big of a deal as it used to be. That's that's just
no. I don't. I think whatever was in the beginning has just kind of carried over by word of mouth and historical reference. But I feel like the only time they'd really smack you down is if you were selling something, but then directed them over to your eBay listing to purchase it rather than purchasing it through Whatnot or something in that manner.
Yeah.
That's what I feel for that.
Is Shopify going to be, I mean, you know what they're after. They don't want you saying, "Oh, come over to my eBay live channel," or "Come over to eBay," and so, or yes. I sell live on Amazon. That's what they want. Like we got a contract to sell on eBay. I didn't like it at all. It was terrible. The interface, it was slow and clunky. I did not enjoy it. But when we were onboarding with eBay, they basically said Whatnot would want to tell everybody. Look, just don't say anything about the other platform. Do us, the respect and I think that's kind of where Whatnot is at right now.
Completely off topic. Have you tried eBay recently and re-looked at it and revisited it?
No, but our contract's renewed, so we will at some point in time.
Okay.
But right now, I'm hyper focused on readjusting, like I've said before. Instead of getting away from free shipping, I'm adjusting my product line more towards things like free shipping, and getting down to smaller product lines and more, higher margin, smaller, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And eBay doesn't fit into that right now to take that on board.
Yeah.
So.
I know we just had a conversation with someone. For the life of me, I cannot remember who it was.
I do, probably in our chat right now.
Gotcha. That said, was a family member or somebody
Her sister Sal
was doing eBay lives and said it was fantastic.
said
Yeah,
they've really been working on the platform.
yeah,
Anyway,
They probably did a lot. You know, it was very, very surprisingly clunky and slow and inefficient, and their response to questions and stuff was slow and very inefficient, and you know, all that. It for something that's been around that long and that big. So
Yeah.
I kind of had my first exposure wasn't the best. So you know how that works.
yeah.
Yeah, when your first exposure as a customer to a new product isn't that great, you don't really rush back to it.
Yeah.
Peace out.
So, Tracy, you've given us a lot of facts, but what are your thoughts and opinions?
All right, before I give my thought, Noel's over there just doing his hand motions. He wants to say something.
So
No?
you have to put it in perspective. Whatnot has been around for 5 years, and in 5 years, they've been able to polish a lot of kinks. And when you're going from that platform into a platform that is barely starting, and Jeremy has a very good point, that platform is going to seem and going to feel very clunky and not very polished. For someone who starts brand new on a platform that it's offering the live sale and they never experienced Whatnot before, to them it's going to see like the most wonderful thing because they don't know any other way to compare it to anything else. Now, if they were to sell on Whatnot, my question would be, I wonder what would they think if they were to sell on Whatnot at the same time they're selling on eBay. If they thought
They're going to think it's frustrating.
it would
Guaranteed.
if they still have the same opinion. So I'm guessing it takes time to polish the platform. I don't think it was that fast. Maybe they are enchanted because it's different. But if they were to try Whatnot, maybe they will realize that it's not as good as they think it is.
Don't get me wrong. I can, and we'll get back on topic. I will say this on those notes for people that are struggling on different platforms and not having the success they're looking for. See if you can get on these other platforms because there are youth, what I would call youth opportunities, younger platforms, and or eBay being an older platform, but still young in its live selling attributes.
Correct.
There's opportunity there. I know people that have gone on there and that's all they do now. And they're very successful at it, especially in like the coin category and stuff like that. And they are on there because they couldn't break in on Whatnot. So I'm not telling you to, I'm not in any way advocating you to discount it. It just by basic comparison. And we've been on Whatnot for 5 out of the 7 years they've been in existence. So we're well established and well ingrained into that platform. So,
Correct.
but I think there's plenty of opportunity for people that want to adopt it or give it a try. I wouldn't rule it out, I think is the bottom line of what I'm saying.
Yep.
And now,
I would say one thing, rolling back to what, I'm sorry, Tracy, rolling back to what Jeremy said a little bit ago about attempting to fix or improve things in the old way. I think there's something to be said about that comment because truly it's the only way things have been done for this type of business, or this business is even newer than what things have been done, right? So it's going to take time for Whatnot to think a little bit more outside of the box on how to solve these types of problems than just doing it the way that eBay does it, or TikTok does it, or Amazon does it. Granted, they're using the biggest retailers in the world and pulling those practices in, but this is a completely different format than anything that's ever been done with those retailers ever.
And if you sit down and think about the fact that those places got so big because they innovated new ways for shopping,
Exactly right.
Mhm.
not
100%.
replicating. And that's the sit down. And sometimes it's a matter of redefining and readjusting your marketing as opposed to just going, hindsight.
Yeah.
Like I said, you innovate instead of replicate.
Yes.
That's taking a new look at everything, even the way you're going to direct your buyers when they get on, or the target market you have for buyers. It kind of takes care of itself. Like when I first got on, when I was younger, I was a computer tech, and I got on. I'm used to searching and dealing with things, and I got on Facebook. I was like, this is ridiculous. I have no idea how to operate this or how to navigate this. But
Don't
you
do it.
know, it took off like wildfire, and it became a very that's how you become the leader. The stuff that I was confused as all get out when I was on them, how they would operate and work, are all the leaders in the industry right now.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of them I'm not on. I'm aged out of it, but that's where you got to go, and that's where the true success and springboards and astronomical numbers that they are looking for, and to keep growing at the pace they're looking to grow, maybe without even expending so much money for forced marketing in the old antiquated ways of what they're doing, spending all this money, with SEO optimization and all that crap. But
Sure.
I'm going to stop talking to. We asked
Yep.
Tracy a question, and she's like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting to
I
answer. You
apologize.
guys, shut up.
I
Well,
just, I just
and
didn't
now
want to
we've kind
forget
of
it. I'd
veered.
already forgotten the comment twice. I wanted to make sure I got it out there.
I I just kind of want to add on to that before I answer the question is change management is hard and behavior change
It
is
is.
difficult. So I appreciate the whatnot view, whether I agree with it or not. I can totally understand the fact that whatnot is looking at buyers come in and buyers already have a behavior of going to a search bar. Let's capitalize
Uh-huh.
on the known behavior because changing behavior is harder than capitalizing on what they're already doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, in essence, if we're going to take, Jeremy, your thought of innovation, which I totally agree with, is what they should be doing, is guiding them, taking the known behavior, using the known behavior to guide to a new behavior is the better approach. But that takes time, it takes money, and it takes a lot of programming. I mean, and we're not talking, this isn't a 2-week process, 3-week process. We're talking months and months of training buyers to do it in a new way. Is it doable? 100% doable. And it would
Of
make the
course.
app so much better.
Yeah.
But that's
like
not my
like
call.
on
I
the
don't run
fly
whatnot.
live, what we're saying being searchable, which today in this world is 100% capable of happening.
I
So
agree.
So on pre-listed versus random, just kind of to summarize my thoughts on pre-listed versus random, back to the question, it depends how you sell. It depends your selling style, which we may talk about in a little while. If you're doing volume, it doesn't make sense to pre-list. I'm niche and I've done both. I started with pre-listing, then I did like a little over a year of all randoms, mainly because it saved me time. It's easier to do randoms. I've recently, over the last couple of months, have been leaning back towards pre-listing. I do have to say, for a niche show, when I have 60 to 80 items, pre-listing, I get pre-bids and higher average order value. So I am seeing more money on my pre-listed shows than I am on my random shows. I still like the appeal of random and I still like to throw a couple randoms in there because I think there's an excitement to that. I think buyers want that. They love that thrill of the hunt. But for me as a seller, in the way that I sell and the items that I sell, pre-listing right now seems to be working better for me.
I'd be curious to see what the stats are on mixed style selling, like you're talking about doing, where
Yeah.
you would do some pre-listed and some, because I'm a huge advocate of the follow through on the higher valued items bringing lower prices, but it also helps bring up, by base of comparison, arbitrary coherence principles, causing the overall sales prices throughout the entire sale to increase. I'd like to see those numbers, some of those numbers,
I would
because
also like to see if those higher numbers equate to more dollars per hour spent on that show.
Oh, man.
Because the time that it takes to pre-list 100-item show is pretty significant. And do those additional dollars equate to the hours spent to do that?
Tony and I just did our very first 100% pre-listed show. Ooh.
A lot.
It was a lot.
I'm only
Um,
spending maybe if we're also including cleaning items like removing price tags or cleaning them, because let's face it, a lot of times if you're doing random, we're not doing cleaning. It's as is, and we're pulling from boxes. Not always, but a lot of times. But if you're talking from the minute that I pull it off my shelf and say, okay, these are the items I'm going to sell, to clean them, photograph them, and list them, 3 hours for 80 to
Yeah.
100
That
item show.
includes listing.
That includes,
100
but I
items.
use CSV. I also I utilize as many tools as possible to make it as fast as possible.
I mean,
It's
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say the more you do it, the more efficient you get at it.
Of
So,
course,
like
of
for
Yes.
you
course.
guys, the
Yes.
first time you do it, I mean, if
First,
your first,
first,
if the first time you do it, you're cranking out 100, that's gonna be that's a task and a half
No, the
until you
worst
kind of.
part is it was already listed.
yeah,
The
these were
pictures were
already listed.
taken.
Yeah,
All the description was there.
they were in our buy
It
it
was
now.
bad. Anyway, and the show actually went really good. But
Yeah.
and I want to go back to Kate. Example: search sterling options, sellers or items. Don't we have that already? I think what Whatnot is really wanting though, like I'll give you, for example, in the health and beauty category, some women are very, very specific on the product that they want. So they don't want to look up just face cream
Yeah, they want
and have
granular
to
search.
filter through all the search results of all the face creams. They want Fendi #4 ultra hydrating face cream.
Or just Fendi and get them in an appropriate direction. I mean, the example that was shown to us was for brands. So I think the initial target, again, we are nowhere near on the back end of what Whatnot is doing. Only what was presented to us in a short 10-minute spiel per each one of these items.
And Tracy, Tony, Noelle, and I just heard this yesterday, and all 4 of us have been traveling since then.
Correct.
I do want to throw out one more interesting thing that may be a little surprising to some, maybe not. I was very surprised. You know the new titles that we have on the bottom of our thumbnails? Those are only available for sellers. Those were only rolled out to sellers. That. Buyers
Wait,
do not
say
have
this
those.
again?
The new little thing on the bottom of the thumbnails that shows what's running or something in your bin.
The auction
that came out like a week ago. It was only rolled out to
on the outside
sellers.
of the show.
Yeah. Buyers don't have that yet. So if you're not in Whatnot, if you're not in Whatnot system as a seller, you don't have it.
Then what's the?
I don't know if they didn't say it's in beta. But there must be some type of test. But they didn't say they didn't specifically use the words beta. They just came out with during something else. This was literally kind of like buried in a bunch of other stuff they were saying. And when they spoke the sentence, Lysandra and I both looked at each other and we're writing it down really quick. Like, wow, nobody knew that.
So buyer only accounts, you're saying?
Correct.
Buyer only accounts do not see the auction listing on the outside of the wall on the thumbnail.
Only seller accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There was no reasoning as to why that was.
That's weird that they would even bother saying that then. It's kind of.
Here's another image for you guys. This is about the listings.
Yeah, it's too hard to see that. This was what the templates they're talking about that they're trying to work on. That's what the templates would look like to list like a bunch of shirts at one point. Yeah.
Yep.
It's too hard to read. It's too little.
Well, I'll try my best.
Thank you. Thank you for trying. We appreciate you.
What other fun new info do you have? Revelation.
Well, I spoiled it in your show this morning, and you talked about it.
Yeah.
But if you guys weren't in the show this morning, I hate to break the news to everybody. I hate to break it, but giveaways, straight from a Whatnot employee's mouth who was leading a session, giveaways do nothing for you in the algorithm. Sales are king.
The actual
sales do it. Yeah.
Yeah, the actual act of having giveaways does not do anything to the algorithm. But I do believe you said You were in that workshop. I wasn't, but he said he couldn't say anything to how much the actual giveaway in its of itself, if you were doing a $5 gift card or a $100 gift card attributed to people in your room or anything like that. But the actual listing for the giveaway and it running does not affect the algorithm.
The activity of the giveaway itself does not
Correct.
affect it.
Correct.
It is
The
not
They
counted
did
activity
as
of the
an
say,
giveaway.
activity. People
yeah,
entering the giveaway is not considered activity under the
yeah.
Correct.
whatnot
They,
discoverability factors.
he
Correct.
followed it up with, because immediately, I think as soon as it came out of this person's mouth, they were like, "Uh-oh," and they kind of followed up
Uh
with, "But
huh.
giveaways will keep people in your room, and then they can become buyers, and the activity is really what drives your algorithm." So it was another one of those, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that in a whole room
Yeah,
full of
it's
seller type
it's
moments.
it's nothing of it's only a speculative potential help. Like there's no
Yes,
quantifying factor you can get from it. They have nothing that they can say this helps it. The only
If you
way it
run a
helps you it is if X, Y, and Z happens as a
Yeah,
result.
if you
correct.
run a giveaway, you're not going to get 30 more people in your room all contributing to activities that are going to actually make a difference with the algorithm. They can't say that.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing that was kind of just new information that they gave during the workshop, which you already discussed in your show this morning, were the adjustments on the shipping labels. And the fact that those are going to start being charged back to sellers, starting with the weight and then eventually with dimensions. So,
Which I love, by the way. I think it's amazing. I am so happy that they are finally doing
Yeah.
this.
I do too. Here's what I'm finding interesting about it. Here's what because they showed me my like, oh, here's your stats. Because
Mhm.
you can go and see like what you would be charged if you know. So here's what I my the interesting takeaway I have. So let's say like 8 ounces to 14 ounces is the same price. I would get charged, but they're charging an adjustment fee if I don't put the exact weight, accurate weight in.
Really?
That's what it looks to be potentially
Yes.
happening. Yeah.
So,
So if
I
your
think you have
listing
the
comes
same
up as
question.
8 ounces, but it's actually 12 and you don't change it to 12, they're
Yeah.
giving you the adjustment hit
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Before.
And here's what it is. I read an article a while ago that the post office put out that said they're going to start charging for adjustments. My assumption is it has to do with efficiency on the back end and creating the appropriate space on trucks to be, they're trying to increase efficiencies for money. So when you
Correct.
send them something and it's off, it causes a headache for them for their numbers and everything. So I completely understand it. My normal thought and what I'm guilty of that I tell other people not to be, don't look at it in such black and white terms because there's multiple layers to this. Same
Correct.
thing with the size. I won't be surprised if let's say it's a 12 by 12 by 12 box, but you send a 10 by 10 by 10, even though it's sized down, they're going to charge you the adjustment fee and they have what they're calling just like a dollar something or an X amount for the adjustment. Not that there would have been an additional charge for the price, just because they have to make and accommodate for the adjustment on their back end, and it's also another potential revenue stream. I
I
read
don't,
that article and they didn't specify up or down. They just said adjustment. If they have to make an
Like
adjustment,
a
I
flat fee, no matter what way the adjustment is.
exactly.
If the
And
size
then
or weight
if
is
they have
wrong, there's
to
an
if they
adjustment
have to
fee.
adjust up, you get hit twice.
I have
The
Yes.
the
way it seems like there's the
image.
adjustment fee and then the extra postage fee.
I have the
so
image for you
I've been in
guys.
shipping. Go
Go
ahead,
ahead, throw
Noah.
it up there.
I have the image for you guys.
If you have not seen this in your whatnot already, it has rolled out. But if you have not seen it,
Well,
this is what it will look like.
It might be a little difficult to read,
They're
but
yeah,
here it is.
they're making us aware of it. They're not charging us yet. When's that supposed to happen?
no,
Right?
it's a, there was no
Eventually. I thought it was
definitive.
30 days.
Yes.
Well, that page says you will be notified 30 days before being charged.
Well, I got a
There's no,
notification on my thing, so I'm assuming in 30 days I'm going to start getting because I went into my account and it came up and said, "Here's what's happening, so get ready."
gotcha. Um, As of this morning, I couldn't even see this on my account. I don't know if that's because I do not have any adjustments or if it just hasn't rolled out to all of the sellers yet. So I don't see this yet.
Well, here's my question, which kind of goes back to I think this is what you were saying, Jeremy, is because we use the bands. If we am I being a if it's 8 to 11 and I missed it and it's 11 to whatever and I made a mistake and didn't ship out the right weight, am I being charged from the 11 up? Or you see, like, since when we're
Yeah.
charged on whatnot, we're
Yes,
charged
it
in a
would be.
band. So do you start at the 11? So say if I did 8 to 11 and it was actually 13, am I going to be charged 2 ounces or am I going to be charged how many? I mean, is there any
It
way?
would be 2 ounces.
I,
It
I
would,
have no idea. And then here's the other confusing thing is if you have like 1.5 pounds, the post office just rounds it to 2 pounds. So it's
correct.
going to create confusion. Like you know, that's what I tell my people to do, and they're not going to charge you for that. That's not an adjustment on their
Yeah.
Yes.
in their
Mhm.
opinion.
So
But here's everybody here. The solution to the problem is just make everything 100%
Make it
accurate, and then you
right.
don't have any
Make it
issues.
right.
But
Yeah.
but I will let me throw out 2 quick things. Tracy, the post office has no idea what the whatnot bands are. So
Correct.
if you're running 8 to 11 and you ship a 14-ounce package, they're going to charge you the difference from 11 to 14 ounces. It'll be the 3-ounce difference.
Mhm.
I politely disagree, Jeremy, with the adjustment charge going down because the post office has already charged you more for the dimensions or weight being higher. They're not going to charge you more because it's less. I've been in shipping for a lot of years and we have never charged for going down, only for the extras.
Yeah, I know, but let me that article
I
that I
understand what
read.
you're saying.
Yeah, but that article that I read just came out this year that the post office was going to start doing this, and it was associated directly with third-party pass-through shipping entities.
And I was and literally I was just talking with our new postmaster, and they said they do not charge anything for sizing down or any adjustments on flat rates being a lesser dimension, because we were having this conversation because I cut down some large flat rate boxes to save on padding.
Yeah.
And the desk clerk asked if that was an issue because I have adjusted a flat rate box and said, no, as long as you adjust down, it's fine, which has always been our understanding.
Yeah.
But
And I hope
you
that's
only
the
get hit with
case.
the up. Yes.
I hope that's the case, but let me just I should find the article. Again, it was associated not with dealing with the post office as a person directly. It was dealing with the third party entities, meaning
Yeah.
like Shippo and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. So I could walk into the post office and the postmaster general is going to tell me what they're told dealing with customer service over the desk. But does that necessarily mean that that's the way it's going to work on the back end between
No,
those two entities?
because it doesn't even work the same way with the person at the desk and the person picking up the package and the person at the distribution center.
I hope you're correct that that's the case because I would much rather just ship something out that says it's 12 by 12 by 12 and I just use a 10 by 10 by 10 or 4 by 4 by 4.
And
I don't
never
want to
run
have to
into
go
that
through
issue.
and adjust all that.
So
However,
Can
I'm
I
just going to, for safety's sake, go through
make a comment?
and do everything 100%.
Go ahead,
I wanna-
Tracy.
Good, Tracy.
I just
Go
want
ahead.
to address Kate's comment in the chat. I regardless shipping, whatever we're talking about, I think this is a great business lesson just in general. And I'm speaking directly to Kate's comment. I think this is a great business lesson that all of us as business owners need to understand the rules that we should be following, whether it be local, federal, state, USPS, whatnot, whatever those rules are, and we need to follow them. And we can't, as business owners, say, oh, well, Bob over here told me this, because that would be like getting pulled over for speeding and saying, well, my cousin Larry told me it was 75 on this road. The cop doesn't care if cousin Larry told you that. Whatnot, USPS does not care if seller A, B, or C told any of us something. It's up to us as business owners. So I don't want to address any specific sellers, but I just want to say that all of us as business owners are responsible to follow the rules as laid out for us.
Yes.
Yep. And
And go ahead.
I'm going to comment the wish list comment. What's wrong with determining shipping charges at the time we process and print label like most platforms do? I know for a volume seller, when you're shipping out hundreds of boxes, the amount of time that it takes to adjust box sizes down, like from the 12 by 12 by 12, which is standard and whatnot, down to, we'll just say a 10 by 10 by 10. There's no difference in shipping charges for us, and it's the time. And it might only be 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds per package,
But
but
it's
then
150 shipments in a show.
but start adding 150 packages and that really starts to add up fast.
Well,
And again, we will absolutely adjust up. If
100%.
if it says 12 by 12 by 12 and it's 22 by 10 by 12,
yeah.
we make those changes, right? But if it's less than 12 by 12 by 12, I don't touch it, because
You
I've
pay
already
my-
paid more.
my
for the
understanding
package.
of how shipping works is, if I pay for a higher rate, I've paid for a higher rate, and that's
Mhm.
fine. The post office doesn't care if they get more for money for the package that takes smaller space in their planes, trucks, and cargo vans.
I will make mention one thing that I would like as an option is what Wishlist Rose is saying. I would like that as an option as a free. I would like it where I can run free shipping. I can run whatever I want, and then I know I'm only paying what I need to
Mhm.
for
Correct.
every single thing.
Agreed.
And that would be my personal preference
Oh,
to have that option. It'd be
Yep.
nice to also have the option to just free flow it the way it is already structured on these live selling platforms.
Yeah.
But
Maybe.
I would like to be able to just do it on the back end entirely.
Gotcha.
So I guess I probably read that question wrong. Actually,
Sorry, Wishlist.
that's probably more talking. Why can't we just determine what the shipping charge is when we do the shipping label? But then you've got people purchasing items not knowing how much that shipping is going to be
And you get hit 2 days later with the shipping
So
fee.
you might have a seller that's trying to sell a lamp that's going to cost $40 on the platform. But if you don't know that and you bid according to whatever, and then 3 days later you're hit with that $40 charge that you weren't expecting, maybe that's what you were asking. I guess it could be that too.
And let's be real, the shipping charge when you're bidding on something absolutely influences your end result and what you'll pay for the item.
Yeah. That's, and what I'm saying is I would like the flexibility to determine upfront what my customer get charged, whether that's free, $1 per item, 50 cents per item, $10 for the entirety of the show, and then I just deal with it on the back end. Right now,
But
that's
not get charged ahead of time.
exactly.
Yes.
So it charges the customer, not me.
Yes.
It goes all in, not, and it doesn't. Like I said, the solution, whatnot, and other platforms will say, oh, people will abuse that. It goes into a shipping account.
Yep.
And I use it. And if there's extra money in there, I can use it for a future show. If I have to pay, I pay it out of my pocket. But if there's over payments for some reason, I can't take it as pocket money and put it in to put it into my bank account. But I can still use it to offset my costs for my customers in future shipping shows.
But it's shipping credits for
Yes,
That
provide
would be
shipping
amazing.
credits.
Man, you could bank your shipping credits and then do like a big large item show.
Just to
Yes. Yeah.
That
And
would be
you can
amazing.
look at it as it's a mutually beneficial thing for the entirety of the community. You're not ripping anybody off. It would be, but every other platform is exactly what, well, not every, but every other platform, but a lot of the static platforms and stuff have that capability that you can, and let's all be realistic too. Shipping isn't just shipping, and that's all we get to charge.
Correct.
Other
The
platforms
supplies and
allow
packaging
you
are
to
crazy.
determine your shipping and handling costs. You can build it in. We can't do that right now on
Correct.
Whatnot. That is not an option. So that is another reason why I'm a big advocate for that. Even if it goes into a shipping allocation, I would consider anything over or anything like that, a little bit of a softer landing for me for future shows like we were talking about, the pad that to somewhat kind of compensate me for all the boxes and the materials and the time that I pay my shipping department,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff, which
I
still
agree.
translates to more success for my business or better deals for my buyers. It's a
I
win-win.
agree.
But anyway, Bunny trails.
We love them.
So, Tony and Lysandra, question for you. What multi-part question? One, what do you think was the best takeaway or something really great from the summit, and where do you think Whatnot missed the mark?
You wouldn't answer this there.
What was your answer when they interviewed you?
Who knows?
Oh my gosh. All right. So my best takeaway from the Whatnot Seller Summit was probably the first little marketing speech thing they put on in the beginning, and then it was the gentleman at the very end talking about product development and what they were trying to do, and really explaining how they as a company think through a problem.
His name is Tim, I think. Was it Tim, the marketing or the last guy? I think it was Tim. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was thinking out loud. I apologize.
Where I thought they missed the mark, actually they didn't miss a lot. It was actually very well put together. Highly impressed. And if they do more of them, which is their plan, if they feel like this one went over well, I'll probably go to all of them. But I feel like they might have missed the mark.
The workshops were probably room for improvement. And I say that
with the one experience we had.
I say that with the one workshop that I went into. I did not partake in all the workshops. You had a choice, either go to one of the workshops or listen to speakers. And most of what we did was speakers. I went to one workshop.
But you tried to walk into the workshops and they were insanely overcrowded. And I told Tony, I feel like they should have allowed people to pre-schedule that and sign up for those workshops ahead of time.
And we'll offer all of that type of feedback back when we do our
so
feedback.
So that attribute would have technically been a miss for you on the event.
100%.
The way they handled the workshop situation.
The miss, in my experience of my one workshop, the miss was organizing the workshop a little bit better and allowing the community host there that they had running them to have a better handle on the situation.
Okay, I have a question for the three of you. Tracy, if you did that, if your answer is yes to this, I'm curious. Did you guys? I know you said you attended one, Tony. Did you guys all go to workshops? And if so, what were they? Like what were you drawn to? And did you get anything out of them? Yeah, I mean, Tony, I know you already answered, but
I attended.
We absolutely
I attended
did not.
one. I attended one.
Shipping one.
Didn't get anything out of it. Go ahead, Noel.
I attended one. I attended the one where they were talking about how to improve your show in terms of the lighting, the camera, and then they were mentioning at the very end OBS, but it was just a mention. They didn't show or taught anything in particular. It was very, very short.
I attended a couple of the workshops, and real quick, I'm going to answer. There was no trade show, so that question's answered. And Kate, I'll give you my overall opinion in a second. I attended a couple of the workshops. I felt the workshops were very rudimentary. They were very high level, not as detailed as I would want it from an experienced seller perspective. I would love to have seen maybe workshops geared toward different levels of sellers. So they were trying to, it's like trying to teach to a class with many different skill levels, and you've got to pick the most basic skill level because you can't teach at the middle, you can't teach at the high, so you got to go to the lowest. And that's what they did. They taught at the most basic skill level. So I felt that they were very rudimentary. The general sessions were far more informative, not all of them, but there were a few that I thought were far more informative. Overall, it was a good experience. The best thing that I got out of it, honestly, was networking, was meeting with some of the Whatnot people, was meeting people, other sellers that I've seen, and deepening those relationships. To me, that was probably far more beneficial than any knowledge I may have gained from the summit. I feel Whatnot missed the mark in one majorly huge way. And this is and I'm going to provide them the feedback too. We all got these surveys to take. And this is going to be encompassed in my feedback is that it was catered to large sellers. It was catered to volume money making sellers. I get it from a business perspective. You're going to cater to the people that are paying your bills. I see that. However, what is the demographic on Whatnot? I don't know what it is, but I assume that we have a large demographic of solo and maybe husband and wife teams, and a smaller portion of like Jeremy with a warehouse and a team. They exist, and there's a lot of them. But if we looked at the whole demographic, the conference to me felt, even though the workshops are very rudimentary, anything that Whatnot like put on, like the general sessions, were highly focused on things that you had to have a team for, or you had to have a warehouse. And a perfect example, they did a general session on the 4 trends of the early breakout people who hit success within the first 30 days on Whatnot. What 4 things are they doing to make them so successful? Number 1, go live longer and more often. Noted, 30 hours per week. Okay, Whatnot. Let's just think about this. If I'm live for 30 hours a week, I'm probably shipping for 30 hours a week. That's 60 hours a week. Me by myself or me and my husband, that is not doable. Jeremy, yes. If you have a team, that's doable. So, and a lot of the general sessions followed that kind of a mentality where I felt they were geared towards the sourcing session. It was all about how to source pallets, how to source huge, large scale. There was a couple other sessions, and they were very focused on that. And so I kind of felt left out between the rudimentary knowledge and the big sellers.
So it sounds to me like my interpretation of your explanation is the sessions were more like the high volume sellers workshops, and the other ones should have just been all pitched as workshop things, and then everyone could have went to most of the tiered ones like you're talking about. Like, this is designed for people, but something in between. They should have had like shipping 101 and then shipping strategies 102 or something like that.
Yes. I'm gonna speak to that next, because the workshop we went to wasn't because we needed help with it, but because we wanted to support another seller that was helping put it on, and it was shipping. And I guess the first little workshop they did, it was the entire group was just lumped into one group. And just like Tracy said, they had to teach to the people that knew the least amount about it. So there was a lot of people on the higher levels of that completely missed out on getting any knowledge. So Kenny and Casey saw that in the first workshop. So the second workshop that they did on shipping, which is the one we attended, they broke everybody up into groups. Here's your beginning shippers, here's your intermediate shippers, here's the people that are trying to scale. And so then they tried to break them up into that. It still, I felt, was a failure, at least for the businesses trying to scale section.
Correct.
I mean, if they did it on the fly, I wouldn't expect a whole lot,
They did it on the fly.
Which,
it was on the fly. I would have
rather
have seen those work into, like you were kind of saying, but have 3 different shipping seminars, one for intermediate or basic, one for intermediate, one for scalability, and have someone in there willing and ready to speak on issues with each of those levels. And that way I don't have to sit in the basic or intermediate, and they don't have to sit into a scaling one and try to get anything out of it, because that would be a waste of 45 minutes of time.
And I want to add, Auntie Barbie, from a lot of new sellers that I personally knew at the summit, they gained a ton of knowledge and loved it. Including you, as well as a couple other newer sellers that I personally know from the app. Loved it and learned so much.
And I will say real quick, contrary to what Tracy just said about a lot of the information there was for the larger or company type sellers, I heard on many occasions from Whatnot people comments that were made, or just general comments describing something, that I think the assumption was that there were a lot more newer sellers who attended than experienced sellers. So again, I'm not on the back end. I'm not privy to any whatnot conversations that happened between them. I'm just saying, I think that their thought was there was a lot of newer sellers, and people like us kind of missed that mark a little bit.
I have a question that's not really, it's kind of off topic. You mentioned, because I'm just curious now, because Tracy, you said you went to a sourcing session,
I did. Yes.
and
It was a speech.
I need some more detail on that. I don't
There-
know why. And you know
there
why?
was
Because
no-
every time I do chat shows, everybody asks me
Mhm.
the sourcing questions. So I'm wondering what their
We were there
perspective
too. Yeah.
was. You guys
It was
were there
about
too? Well,
pallets.
Yeah.
then let me know. I need to know what
Honestly,
their
Jeremy, it was
perspective.
very reminiscent of what you would say. I mean, I can't
Correct.
argue. Like the information they gave was very good, legitimate information if you're at that level to source in that capacity. They
Correct.
talked really about relationship building, networking, that it's
We
more about
did.
that.
Networking
And they
and
even
relationship.
talked about sometimes you take a buy, you buy higher, or you spend money on a buy that may not be your favorite buy in order to build a relationship to get to the good stuff. It was very reminiscent of everything that I've heard you say on a lot of your shows. And they had three different
I mean,
panelists,
that's
like groups of panelists, and they all kind of had the same perspective.
okay.
There was no
I-
specific information in there on how to source
No.
large
No.
quantities of
I
inventory.
feel like they missed the mark on that one though,
Yeah.
is that they had 3 pallet sellers.
Correct.
Yes.
And
Oh.
it should have been more representative across categories than just
Mhm.
pallets.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's bad. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like you're getting one category's perspective on how to source, and that gives them the impression like that's where you need to go. Like, oh,
Yeah.
the pallet sellers, or this is the technique pallet sellers use. But if you're saying if what you're saying is what they said, it's applicable across the board, which is nice.
Yes.
But
It is.
it's still like if I'm new to the whole thing, and that's one of the big things I'm hungry for, I'm going to kind of take that impression like, well, does that really apply to me because they're all pallet sellers? If you knew, that they were all pallet sellers, but and we also have to put it in perspective. This is the first time they did this, right? This is their first
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
big,
Mhm.
huge, summit. So hopefully, they get a ton of feedback. It sounds like they were taking feedback on the fly and trying to adjust
Yes.
on the fly, which
They
is
were.
promising for the next ones that I'm sure they're going to do. I mean, so would you
And-
consider it to have been an overall success, though, like from what you saw,
Mhm.
and that's promising for future ones?
Lysandra and I talked today, and both of us agreed that this was the best
Meetup
that we've been to thus far as organization and learning and networking. All of those things combined. They all have a little bit of something in there, but they all leave something to be desired. This one had most of everything there, although there were some things that definitely need improvement on.
But they told everybody they want the feedback. They want to improve upon it, and if they feel they could be more successful, they're going to do more of them.
Yeah.
So I think if they do continue to do them, they're only going to make them better.
Correct.
So as someone who in my full-time, my 9 to 5 profession actually runs multi-day conferences, I was highly critical. So I went in from 2 viewpoints. One, I was like, what did they do good that I could copy and implement in other parts of my life? And then 2, I was picking it apart, well, how is the movement? How are the rooms laid out? I was looking at all the logistics and the operations and the audio and the video and the communication and the goodie bags and like kind of pulling all of that together and being very critical about it. I have to say they did a damn good job for the very first time for a business who's never done this. They really did. It was everything perfect? No. But like I said, having done this myself, I also know what goes into it to make something like this very successful. And for the first time, they really did good. I would give them another chance. I would go again. I felt I got my money's worth at least, if maybe not in knowledge, but in networking and those intangibles that come with that. So I would give it another chance, and I will plan on probably going to another one when they schedule it.
I'll go to one when it's closer to Pennsylvania.
You missed out on all the barbecue, Jeremy. All the barbecue.
Okay.
Indeed.
Barbecue was good, Jeremy. Very
I'm
good.
okay with that. I'm fine.
Millicent's, I think they were hesitant to say whether they felt it was successful. I talked to Casey there at the end, and she was feeling pretty good about it. But I think they're looking forward most to just getting the feedback from the 500 people that attended.
Correct.
Was that the count? Is that their
They sold 500
tickets?
Sold 500 tickets. I heard 60 people were no shows, not coming, but I don't know.
But they also had quite a few people there without a ticket hoping to get in. So we don't really know how many were actually in.
Nice.
I heard 40 to 50 no shows. Yeah, that's about what I heard.
Yeah.
So I will definitely go again. I actually, why I feel there was room for improvement, a lot of it, I felt that they did a really good job.
Go ahead.
Did they give any indication if they're going to do it, or are they going to make it like a multi-state
Penny
thing?
said that
the hope was,
if it went well, that their hope was to do more of them and do like an East Coast one, West Coast one, and then a really big one
in the summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, their intent is to continue with these as long as feedback is good, or if it's something that they can improve on based upon the feedback given.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I feel it was the better of the meetups that we've been to. Granted, it had a lot more investment of time and money put into it to make it better for that many people. But the networking opportunities were really good. It was structured in a way that allowed you to learn things, but also structured in a way that didn't force you to meet people, but allowed for meeting people.
Yeah. I liked that. I liked that there was a lot of choice and kind of go between, well, I don't like this workshop and this speech really isn't speaking to me. So there was also like common areas for people to go just talk to each other.
Yeah.
They had a room with a professional photographer in it where you could go get professional headshots done. I thought that was cool.
I might have gotten a photo that wasn't as professional as they were probably expecting.
I want to answer these two questions, and we can do a round robin here of answering these questions. But Southern Charm, Tim and Michelle, did they say anything about USPS for shipping? They did not. They didn't mention, and did they? Oh, well, maybe it was in the shipping thing. I didn't hear it in mine.
So,
okay.
Lysandra's correct. And I'm going to just go there. One thing we did hear is that probably by the end of the year, there will be FedEx and UPS options.
And that was straight from the guy that heads up the shipping at Whatnot, because he was part of our little group.
I cannot remember his name, but he runs the shipping at Whatnot. It's what he does.
I was told that from somebody at Whatnot as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there. I don't know if it's going to fit into that whatever's been out there, the bring your own label, but he did hint to the fact that there will be that type of option also, as well as being able to use FedEx or UPS on the front end that the customer can use select
like
so that they get charged appropriately on the front end.
He talked about the customer being able to select to do like overnight shipping and have that option to select it in the show. and get express shipping and things like that. So it's even more than just FedEx and UPS.
There's going to be additional shipping options coming very soon.
As long as we can turn on and turn off those aspects, because that's an obligation that requires smaller sellers again to meet expectations they might not be able to.
That's exactly
like, just like I've said in the past, they need to get more flexibility for us sellers when it comes to shipping across the board. We need to be able to turn off international shipping. We need, like, all that kind of stuff needs to happen. But anyway.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to be a seller that gets locked into 2 of my customers doing overnight shipping, and now I have to run a separate ship line just for that.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that. I don't want any part of that at all.
I'm sorry. We didn't mean to cut you off, Tracy, but we didn't. But
no, that's good, because I wasn't in that
from the guy that is shipping. And then what was the second question?
Millicent,
this is a really good one.
To the answer to this too.
Millicent says, would love to know the one thing you took away from the summit that you plan to implement in your business. So I do have one thing. And again, I don't feel like I learned a lot. So let me preference this. All of the breakout sessions that I attended, from my observation, the PowerPoint, the presentations that they were using were Whatnot developed. So I'm pretty sure it was community hosts who were leading the breakouts for the most part. And I'm pretty sure that Whatnot said, hey, you're talking about this. Here is the presentation, and you need to kind of stick into this somewhat of a script. However, I did take quite a few quotes where they would, be able to give a little bit of a hint or tip or best practice that they have had in their business. So I took some of those down. Not that they were new or revolutionary, but they're things that I probably would repeat at some point in time, and obviously give them credit for it in one of my shows. But the one thing I took away, because social media is a focus of ours this year, there is a hashtag. It's hashtag #WhatNotHauls, HAULS, that I intend to incorporate into some of my marketing material that I wasn't even aware of. And Whatnot has a concentration on expanding podcast, social media, and some other avenues, and that kind of plays into it. So I will be taking away the hashtag at #WhatNotHauls, or no, hashtag #WhatNotHauls, and using that in some of my own marketing. So what about you?
So hopefully we will be doing that a little bit as well.
I at least had an aha moment while we were at the summit, and it did not correlate really directly with a presentation or a workshop. The first presentation they did was with the marketing company that Whatnot works with, and they had the 2 owners of that marketing company up on stage and was asking them questions and things that, and building your brand. After the presentation, Tony and I pulled one of those guys aside and started asking him questions. And I'm not going to give really anything away, but I know we have made it zero. We have not hidden the fact that we are restructuring as a business. We've changed categories. We've done that. And there was probably a little bit of a aha moment for me on product that we're doing in shows, and little things and changes that we can make to be a little bit more successful going forward. Correct. Kind of within the same category, but just little tweaks and things.
And then one thing that I took away would be on what we talked about earlier with the search bar and the brands. The fact that you could create a listing that you could bring into all of your shows and never use it would still probably work as the SEO keywords for people looking for the brand items. I don't necessarily have to create a listing that I'm going to sell a Juliana brooch on, but if I do intend on having Juliana jewelry, I could create a listing and have it in my show that I carried back to back to back that had Juliana on it that could bring customers in.
He still needs to fine tune this though, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have a sellable item in every single listing. So just like the book marketing on live listings have to be a sellable product.
I will work through the proper guidelines of having the listing, but again, it's one of those things that I think that if I can figure out the right way to use it, I would have that in the show for the searching criteria that they were talking about.
Now you said something that I'm curious about now, Alessandra. Is
Yeah.
that the case? You're the tag this to get notified listings are supposed to be sellable listings.
Yeah,
They are.
so that came out a while ago. They started
I
cracking
don't
down
use
on
it, so
all the they started cracking down on the listings, that were like $999,000. You were not allowed to do that. You have to be selling an item within that listing. Now, the easy workaround in that is that you're selling a sticker. Make the listing for $3 or $6 or whatever, and if they buy it, they get a sticker.
Yeah.
And it's really that simple of a workaround.
It's a dumb workaround, and we hate the fact that you have to put a sticker on it just to be able to use the back call, as we call it. But if that is what it takes to comply with POS, then that's what we'll do.
I don't see. I mean, I can see the complete train of thought here. What you're talking about is what people would abuse if they created this SEO centric principle to finding, driving people to your traffic to your show. People are just going to do old school keyword search spamming listings. They're just going to put
100%.
I'm just going to put, all the words that I need to get people into my room, and I'm going to make it a $9,000 listing. But, I mean, there's obviously nothing, it's going to happen because the reality of the situation is I could put one of each of those items in a listing and make it a $9,000 value.
And never
how many
sell.
people are going to pull the trigger on it?
Correct.
You don't even have to make it 99,000. You make it a couple grand.
Correct.
And you could have a realistic value if you add it all up.
That's
take that's
that
my
Omega
concern about
watch.
those type of things.
Take that Omega watch that's sold in your last rate train for $600-700, put it in the bin listing for $3,300. It's probably never going to sell, and it's always there.
That's just I can take the rail of Rolexes I have and put it in for 18 grand. No one's going to buy the whole rail, but it's worth. It's technically there's the value's there anyway. Yeah. That's
we
my
have
concern
a question.
With that. I will say that's one of my big concerns.
Sorry, Tracy. Go ahead.
That's okay. I was going to say, we have a question. I think, Jeremy, you might want to take a stab at this one. It says, do you guys know of anyone who has a successful strategy in collectibles of loading hundreds or thousands of items in a fixed price format on Whatnot? I do a weekly show and want to see if that works.
What? Wait, where's that question?
It is the Santi Swapper. Who has a successful strategy in collectibles?
Hundreds or thousands of items in a fixed price format? What do they mean by what do you mean by fixed price format? Like a bin format?
The bin listings.
I read that as being bin.
Yeah, that would not be me to answer that because I don't do anything in the bin.
So I don't know. I'm going to take a stab at it real quick.
Go for it, Tony.
I'm not going to say that I know any specific seller that does it, but I would say if you have done it on other platforms like eBay in the past, there are programs out there that you can subscribe to, like Vindu, that will pull your listings in and populate them into Whatnot in mass. And I don't know. We have talked about using it, especially as we start selling on other platforms again. I believe Tracy and Noel use it currently today. But there are third-party sites that would allow that. And I'm pretty sure you guys use this. You upload them with the CSVs as well, right?
We do CSVs. I quit using Vendu because I quit
you did quit using Vendu?
I did because I pulled back. I used Vendu when I sold on, I used to sell on 5 sites, and I'm down to, I focus just on Etsy and Whatnot now. So I quit using Vendu only because it doesn't serve the purpose for me with only Etsy and Vendu, or Etsy and Whatnot. But
they allow for CSV uploads to populate out to multiple platforms all at one time, right?
They do. No, the CSV is just Whatnot. Vendu, you can go to all the platforms. Yes.
Yeah. So.
And CSV, yes, Auntie Barbie, that's what Crystals teaches.
Not
So
at all. Not at
again,
all.
that didn't give you a specific seller that does it, but there's a program that can somewhat do what you're looking at in a more efficient manner.
And
And
I
I'm
kind of
going
want
to
to
throw out there,
address it. Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to throw out a word of encouragement there. It doesn't matter if someone else is doing it. If it's an idea or a concept you're interested in trying to pursue, there's nothing wrong with trailblazing on an app that's relatively new.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a young app. So, give it a try if you think it's a viable business strategy on here.
And absolutely. And that, Jeremy, you kind of hit on, I was going to answer the question, but you kind of hit on something else that was somewhat of a takeaway for me from this weekend. Nothing at all to do with the conference itself. It was more of my reflections, more of just my thoughts of a lot of different things that happen. So different conversations and stuff that do what you're doing. Exactly what Jeremy said. You don't have to be like everybody else on Whatnot. Figure out what you're good at, figure out your path, your strategy, and go for it. I'm realizing I've thought a lot about on Whatnot that I really feel that, there is a whole, I don't want to say fun side, but a goofy kind of this social goofiness. Let's have this fun, laughing type side. And there's a business side to it. And they have this kind of mixed up middle. I am not in the goofy, laughing, let's dress up as potatoes or whatever else and side. That is not me. I'm over here with the straight
I don't know
laced.
what you're talking about.
I mean, but I am a straight laced, business focused, and it's okay. I'm never going to fit over here, but it doesn't mean I can't be successful on Whatnot. Do you? That was a huge takeaway. Not that I've always known this, but it was kind of reinforced in my own thinking through this weekend. And then the other thing I want to say specifically, if you're loading thousands of items in your bin and then doing shows, be careful about the number of items you have in your bin, because the bins there's filters and you can somewhat search, but they're not super user friendly to the buyer, and buyers quickly become overwhelmed and will not scroll through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of items. So be selective in what you pull into a show, because you will completely overwhelm the buyer, and the purpose that you're trying to get of having those items sold will not happen.
The Sandy Swapper, I actually was starting, before I got my job at the post office, I was starting a show that was specifically kind of like that and what you're talking about. I was getting ready to recommend a seller to you that I know that does that type of business on Whatnot. And then I just went to the profile because I haven't heard about them in a while. And I don't know that I want to recommend them because it doesn't look like they've been very successful at it. And I know in the 3 months that I tried a bin only show format, I was having trouble with it. Not saying it cannot be done, because where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, I'll tell you right now, a bin only show will be very difficult.
You lose a lot of excitement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to overcome the loss of the excitement of running auctions where people can potentially get a deal.
Absolutely.
And that's just in our experience of running those for 2-3 months or whatever that we did. That's a tough sell. Figure out an ingenious way to make it work. I will come and watch it. I will probably steal some ideas. Let's go. But it's tough to overcome the hurdle of the auctions.
I've seen a lot of successful sellers that do random pull auctions and then do flash sales. Kind of go back and forth in their show, and I've seen them sell things out of their bin very successfully that way. But most of those sellers that I've seen have also had a pretty large audience to be successful with it.
Or some that are no longer there.
Yes. You think buyers get overwhelmed with too many pre-listed auction items as well?
Buyers do? Yes.
100%.
If I'm going and looking at your bin and you have 7,000 things in there, I'm not going to scroll that.
My favorite jewelry seller likes to pre-list a bunch of her stuff, and at any given time, she'll have between 300 and 700 items in her bin, and it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I get overwhelmed with it.
I'm insulted.
But not just the bin, but for pre-bids. And absolutely, Crafty
Your
Fairies for
favorite jewelry
pre-bids.
seller.
You don't, and this
You
is
haven't
just
gotten
my
that yet.
opinion. 60 to 100 is a lot, and I wouldn't go over 100 on a pre-bid show because it's the same feeling. It's decision fatigue. It's too much. It becomes
Yeah.
too overwhelming. It's like you want them to come in and
Well,
discover what they want. And it's almost like walking into Walmart, not knowing what you want, but you got some money and now you got to figure it out. And I'm just like,
And you
for
just did something.
so
there's just a
let
lot.
me ask Tracy, Noel, and Millicent specifically, because this was just something we played around with last week before we left for Austin. We had 100, or no, we had 90 items, 89 items pre-listed for pre-bids. Was that overwhelming to any of the three of you when you came in?
No, I want to go over like 100, 105, depending on what the items are. That's just my personal opinion. I think that's a good kind of target number.
As a buyer,
And ours went down because it was items in the pre-bid, right? So as 30 minutes went by, that number went down
Yep.
10 items. So people who come in later have a much shorter list to look through for items that we're taking the pre-bids on.
I got a question for because you guys are all doing bin stuff. Tracy, you mentioned something, and I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said something about like searching the bins is not really like what's that like? What's
It's a little clunky. Oh,
so as
go
a
ahead.
buyer, that's what I was going to
It
mention.
really is.
As a buyer, if you have all the listing in there and it's not very good on the titles, it's very difficult to go through the whole entire listing, even if it's 50 items. It's way too many in order for you to find one. There's a way for you to type on the search bar whatever you're interested in, and if it doesn't come with the result, then obviously it's not listed. The only problem there is
Can you still hear?
if you're not,
Can you still hear him?
yes, yes, you will still hear. The only problem is that
You lost Noel. Or
no,
Tracy.
I'm here. You're here.
No, they can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
So I'll finish picking it up. So it's the search in the bin. Again, you like Noel said, you can type in something you want to search for, but you never know how somebody's going to title something. There's no standard for titling. They do have a filter, so you can filter by like most recently added, oldest, newest. Like, so there's a filter that gives you a few choices. It's my experience that most people don't even know the filter exists to even use it.
Now,
So
No,
here's where
let me add one more thing,
I'm just
Jeremy.
curious.
Let me add one more thing, Jeremy.
What's that?
Before you go, the other part is for those people who have a mod. Think about this: the mod doesn't have that pre-bid button for you, for him to be able to look at your pre-bids. The mod has to go through all the listing on all your items to find those pre-bids and let you know, hey, you got a pre-bid on this one and this
real
one
quick,
or this
just
one.
let me know when I can speak. We've lost Noel and Tracy.
Okay, go. Jeremy has a question. He was going to say something, and then
All right. You guys can hear me, but you can't hear them. So we got some funky situation going. I'll let you know. So my continuation of this curiosity about the bin and the searchability. You're saying it's clunky to search within a show in the bin section, but Whatnot is pushing this searchability factor, and it's not clunky outside of the bin. Like in the
I think it's clunky. Have you ever gone to the marketplace and searched for something?
I know that I've kind of been experimenting around with searching outside of shows for products, and I don't find it clunky then, but I do find it clunky within a show.
Okay. So I personally, this is kind of weird doing this back and forth this way. I find that very concerning that Whatnot is trying to push this at the extent they are, and there's a very problematic, I would say, well-known problem with the smooth functionality of something they are pushing colossally within each person's individual show. Like, I think that should be mirrored.
I can answer that. So what they told us, not that we asked that direct question, but what they told us is that if Their goal is to match a buyer, like a buyer who just comes into the app and selects like their categories or selects what they're looking for or types something in the search bar, to the proper sellers. Then what the next step that they want to do is take those items in your bin and put them to the top of the list. So when that seller goes in your room, that's the first thing that they're seeing. So they want to make it as easy as possible for the buyers. That was like Whatnot's vision.
That's kind of odd to me, but because engagement and keeping them there and searching would be something I'd be after if I was going to spend all that time in the bin.
Let me throw one thing out there with that, regardless of the clunkiness on the inside or the outside. And I get where you're going with that, about them making this transition to the outside searching, but the inside is difficult. When I go to a show, if I do, which I don't typically look at the bin, but if I do look at the bin, I'm not searching for anything. I'm looking to find something that maybe I have never seen before, or maybe something I've not seen in forever. I don't know what it is that I'm looking for when I'm looking at somebody's bin. So it's going back to what we talked about earlier. If you're going to have 8,000 listings there, I'm never going to spend 90 minutes of my valuable time searching that type of thing just to see if you have something that piques my interest that I'm not going to get by searching a specific keyword. If that makes sense to what we were talking about earlier. Sorry, I can't hear the conversation after that.
So, Tony, can you hear me? Or it's just Noel you can't hear? He can't hear us at all?
No, they can't hear
no.
either of you.
Me, Raja?
They can't hear us either.
Yeah.
No, we can hear you.
I'll sum it up. You're the only I love discounts cannot hear Tracy or Noel.
Correct.
That's the situation we're in. Everybody else can hear everything.
Perfect. That's good. Okay.
It's just us.
It's just us.
Yeah.
I'm not perplexed. I'm frustrated at the direction that Whatnot is going with this, and the confusing and dissatisfying aspects of new people coming in, just like Nine Dimes pointed out there in the thing, that the anchor of a new person coming in and goes, I can search easily and it takes me to this, and now I'm getting irritated because, okay, this stuff's on top, but then I'm trying to search for other stuff and it's not as simple and easy as it was. So now I'm going to leave and go search for the other things I'm looking for out of this person's show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It creates a potential revolving door, sets a weird, funky attribute to a searching method on a platform. I don't like that. And if you're teaching the people to then be search, like you hear me say, the antiquated search style of the times past, in my opinion, a regression as opposed to a progression forward, that's a bad kind of exposure.
Correct.
That's a dissatisfying and not normal. That's just as hard to get somebody to get used to as it is to get them used to scroll searching, or what I'm a big advocate for, finding a titled show or something that you like, or innovating and utilizing the principles that I talked about earlier in the show. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just watch it back, which is a nice thing I get to say now that we're on YouTube. So I don't know who wants to talk next, because I don't know who heard what, when, here, or why since we're in this situation. But
let me throw out real quick, as historically, I've been the timekeeper at quarter after. So if you wish to keep the time, we have 15 minutes. I will say this. You guys have been very active in the chat with questions today, and we absolutely appreciate that. But I would say if you have anything else that you would like to ask, please do so now.
So, I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate on anything either, Tracy. It seemed like you had a thought there.
Well, I was going to say, Southern Charm hit on it. It has a lot to do with how the sellers title their listings, which then goes to support Whatnot's make these SEO listings, which again is Antiquated. That's what
Antiquated.
I'm trying to say. So let's face it, though. I mean, I I don't know. I don't know what you guys have seen. There are sellers out there who have 400 or 500 items in the bin, but on what's typical, 50 or 100, that's easy to scroll through. I'm not using the filter. I'm not really having to search through titles if you have 50 to 100 items in your bin. That's why earlier I was saying if you're going to load 1,000 items, don't put them all in a show because people aren't going to do it. They just won't look.
If I was to do bins, my strategy would be a term that I would say glanceable. You have to be able to quickly, because I'm still the advocate where I want them to be able to come back into my live stream selling, because I would not do an all bin show, even if I don't do any, but if I were to adopt it, because Whatnot started making it so valuable to have that you kind of couldn't go without it.
Correct.
So you're talking like 10 to 30 or something like that would be my my thing. And you can live add, right? You can add while you're going.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be having fun with it. If I was doing bins, I'd be like, oh, you guys don't seem interested in this. I'm taking it out. You're lost. And then I'd be adding other stuff. Be like, hey, you better get that before I decide to take it out later in the show.
Exactly.
That's the stuff I would be doing if I was dealing with the bin, because I would want it to be an active attribute to my sale, as opposed to, and I have the capability. I would have like one of my helpers, like my bagger and tagger, doing stuff like that in the back, just to add an extra little spice to it. But yeah, if you're talking 100, 150, I mean, that to me that would be the absolute max. But I would want to be, for me, because attention span wise, and if also you're saying that the search capabilities are kind of funky, which unfortunately I don't go into them to know what you're talking about, to really know that experience. That would just I wouldn't want a potentially frustrating experience.
Yeah.
I think Tracy could be onto something. If you really did want to do 1,000 items in your bin, don't put them all in there at once. Curate your show by category and throw some in. Let's do this vintage decor show, and then let's do this jewelry show, and do it by category. And that way, people aren't seeing those bin items show after show after show. Now, does that defeat the purpose of the bin, though? And it always being available 24/7. I guess technically,
No, because it's still
within
in the marketplace,
it
right?
would be.
The marketplace is still available. You're just importing it from there.
I think if you're utilizing the bin, it's usually for again a more niche type of environment, and you're kind of also in that niche type of environment trying to spread your net further along more customer appreciation attributes, people that enjoy that and people that enjoy live auction. That's why I think and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you both have been doing this, having live sale with bin is kind of like the best recipe for that potential success. And Tracy, you were saying you like to do that, right? Doing the like specific, like if I'm doing the bin, it's category specific. It's not just let's throw at the wall, throw crap at the wall and see what sticks type of mentality, style.
No,
am I incorrect in that?
No, you're correct. I pick what's in my bin for every show. So I probably in my marketplace have 150 or so items, and in my bin I'll have anywhere from 20 to 50, give or take. So I pick per show in specific to that show on what I want in the bin for that show. The other thing to think about, and this is something that I actually learned from you, you had talked about that people, the inventory gets stale. They get tired of looking at it. And, started me thinking, like, how many times does somebody go into the bin and they see that same thing week after week after week? So when I was really utilizing my bin, like when I had hundreds of items listed, I would still only pull certain ones in, but I would, I'd had everything numbered. And one month I would only pull from my odd numbers. The next month would only be pulled from my even numbers to keep it fresh and mixed up and until things sold. So you've got to, if you have hundreds of items in there, you've got to think about the most strategic way to use them in your bin, because people get tired of looking at them and they don't want to search them.
And let me get this in real quick, because I'm not a bin person, but let's not forget the road at Whatnot is going down with this searchable and storefront / bin mentality. And we know on eBay and other platforms, the longer something's hanging out not sold, the less effective those listings are at creating the attributes of drawing new people in that you
Yeah.
want.
100%.
They'll consider it. So make sure you're taking that into account, and that can go along with your how many items do I want sitting in my, not in the bin, but just in your inventory that's accessible. Are those items sitting out there not selling going to affect its effectiveness even when you are drawing them into your live sales? So.
Yep. So one of the ways we've been playing around with the bin is we don't have the ability yet to source precious metal jewelry in bulk, not to run dollar start shows.
Correct.
Because you do precious metals at $1 start, it's all going to sell. And we don't have the ability to do multiple shows yet a week of that. So we've been putting the precious metals, the sterling silver, the gold in the bin. And going by that stale factor, we knew our bin was starting to get stale. So we opted to do a dollar start sterling show. And we took all of that pre-listed sterling silver in our bin and we moved it to an auction starting at $1 and available for pre-bids. And we sold every item in the bin that was sterling silver that night, except for a couple really, really expensive pieces. I liked it. It showed promise, actually, for someone that is not able to source sterling silver yet in bulk to do 3, 4, 5 shows a week of it. I kind of like the idea of throwing it in the bin, letting some stuff sell out at maximum profit margin, and then utilizing what you talked about last night, events.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're almost going to hit 50,000 sales or 60,000 sales. Or it's my birthday, which is actually what the event was on Tuesday. It was my birthday show, and making an event out of it with $1 pre-bid sterling silver show. So that's kind of what we're playing around with.
No, I mean that's no different than your standard business practice of clearing out old inventory.
Yeah.
That's and doing it in the manner you did is actually again one of the attributes that I like about live selling and why people should like it, because you as a small seller are able to leverage that the environmental live selling community attributes to get more value out of it than probably even big box retailers would, utilizing the same method of, okay, this is stale inventory, we're going to blow it out at these prices.
Mm-hmm.
So as a percentage, you probably end up being more effective and more efficient at it, doing things like that.
I wanted to get to Millicent's really quick. They did not really talk about anything kind of charitable coming down the pipelines for them as a company. I will say this. I have noticed some chatter on the Facebook and Reddit threads of people that were doing charitable things on Whatnot being banned permanently. So something's going on there. I can't tell you what or give you more information. I just know there's been some activity specifically around people that were claiming to do charitable things on Whatnot.
Yeah, they need to go back to what they did. I don't know if you guys were around years ago. If you were going to do a charity related stream, you had to get approval through Whatnot to do it and show the merits to what you were doing and what was going to happen with it, because they didn't want that reputation as being a place that people are doing charity style streams and then just pocketing the money. And then apparently they got away from that, and I think they need to readopt that, because it very easily quickly proliferate to being a problem with bad actors. They got enough of things they got to keep under control that spreads like wildfire right now, between what we talked about in the past that's been in the news, and the frustrating thing that people have with fakes, forgeries, like all that kind of stuff. They have to keep all that under control. They don't need one more thing, and that's the charity thing, because that's a huge that's another big thing. People will, if that goes unchecked, scammers are gonna take that to full tilt.
100%. Crafty Fairies, and I don't know if anybody else is speaking because our technology is kind of wonky on this side. I'm not going to say that I got exactly what I wanted. Did I get my bin listed price on those items?
No.
2 items we did. It actually got bid up too. And 2 items actually went over what we were asking for the bid items. Did we do better than what we would have done if sending it to a scrapper? Yes. What I was happy with on the show was I saw the potential for it to be better and to get better prices in the future.
Right.
Whereas I wasn't seeing that in the Dollar Start Sterling shows we had done before,
which were just random pulls.
Just random pulls, just doing a sterling silver show and not necessarily event driven. I think one was for your birthday.
Yeah.
But I wasn't happy with those. And what I wasn't happy with is I don't have the ability to source it in bulk to. The thing with Dollar Starts is you take less money in the beginning, right? Maybe even a loss to build up an audience in that category, that specific category. If I can't source it in bulk to constantly do Dollar Start shows, I'll never build that audience because I'm not consistent with it.
Yeah, I can't run 5
restarting every time.
Yeah, exactly right. I can't run 5 shows a week. I'm running 1 this week, 1 2.5 weeks down the road.
And I'd like to take a quick pause there and make sure everybody, this is the thing that all of us preach. It happens in category and then happens in your business as a whole. The consistency being key is true. The ability to source and keep going with what your customers expect is a major key to success in selling on live stream selling.
100%.
So that attribute of what Lysandra just said in correlation to that sterling silver example is that goes the whole way across the entirety of live selling. So
that's kind of what I was working with is I can't do it bulk yet to truly build up an audience for Dollar Start Sterling Silver yet. So this is my answer to it, and we're going to play with it. I saw some promise, so we're going to do it again in a couple months.
Yay, me.
All right. Anybody else? Did we miss any questions? Did I lose Tracy again? Are you here?
No, I'm here.
Tracy,
I'm here.
Oh, she's here.
Oh, you can hear her now.
Yeah, she popped back in about 5 minutes
okay,
ago.
good.
Okay, great.
That's good.
Let's see.
So anything else, Tracy, you wanted to add? I know you took a lot of more notes than what we discussed.
No, I real quick, I thought, while I felt that their early breakout, the 4 like trends that they saw people do, while I felt it was geared towards the larger sellers, you could take the concepts and apply it to your business. There's always a way to downscale it. So, in the first 30, it says in the first 30 days, but let's just say these are the 4 things that they see that make successful sellers. Going live longer or going often as you can. So that kind of ties into the consistency that Jeremy was just talking about. I don't know. I mean, I don't do 30 hours a week. You could just is consistent, have your anchor shows and don't miss them. Be on over and over and over. Launch and reiterate quickly. So improve your show. Show after show, you should be improving. Always go back, rewatch your show, do something better, make it better the next time. Keep thinking, how can I do this better, different, new, exciting? Use a suite of tools to bring buyers into shows. So don't just rely on like, okay, as long as I hit go live, people come in. Being consistent, having good inventory, good customer service. So using any tools available to you to encourage that. And then program for both new and repeat sellers. So those are the 4 things that Whatnot sees in their highest producing sellers that rise the quickest are those 4 types of attributes.
What was the last one?
Program for both new and repeat sellers. So don't just cater to one or the other. Accessible price points, free or reduced shipping, easy to follow show formats, coupons were some of the examples they gave in your programming to new and repeat buyers.
Oh, you said seller. That's why I was confused at first.
Oh, sorry.
Program for new or repeat sellers. So
no, should be buyers. My mistake.
Gotcha. Makes sense now.
Michelle, you should have heard the groan in the room when they started talking about that listing template amongst all the sellers in that room.
It was not a popular concept.
No, for me personally, I don't think I saw anything that like, I hope that doesn't happen. The templates, we all know that Tony and I like random pools quite a bit. For volume, it's the way to go. If they learned, if they figure out how to do it in a much more efficient manner for the seller to appease what they think their buyers want, then I'm fine with it. But Jeremy's probably right on this one. Any successful business out there is the one that innovated different ways of doing things.
Correct.
Maybe we shouldn't backtrack.
Well, I mean, I 100% that's the case. But if they're going to implement this stuff, as long as they don't try to force it onto others, if they have it as a tool for the people that want to use it, and don't try to prioritize it and force it on the people that it doesn't fit into that box, that's fine. You know.
Mhm.
So, but I get worried sometimes when platforms start putting so much stock and resources behind a certain like a potential major platform change or direction, and that seemed like that could potentially be one that would be very a thorn in the side for me. Like that would be, if that was something that came down the pipe where they're like, you have to do all this stuff, that's where I'm looking at exit ramps.
Yeah.
Tracy, what's your answer to Michelle's question?
The only thing that made me groan, and it wasn't, I hope it doesn't happen, during the marketing session, they were giving themselves a lot of pat on the back for the whole Mr. Beast Super Bowl occurrence.
They did.
Oh,
And
yes,
that made
they
me
did.
groan just in response, but not of something that's coming.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I love the platform, and it's great that the stats you talked about earlier with all the like where they've gotten and what they did with all the push. But some of the minor amount of advertising and marketing that they've done, I don't know. It just kind of all just gives me the wrong impression of what this platform feels like it is to me as a seller.
What was the stat about the downloaded app or the search results for the NFL show? Like
I have
Whatnot
that.
was more searched.
So-
you have it? It was more
Well-
searched or downloaded than like literally
They were the top 6.
like the
or
football team or something.
The NBC.
Oh, I don't have
NBC,
that one.
yeah.
I have the Black Friday ones. Yeah.
Whatnot's app on Super Bowl Sunday was more downloaded than NBC's app, who was hosting the Super Bowl on their channel. I did find that interesting.
Yeah.
Where'd our timekeeper go?
I'm here.
He retired.
Nope.
We're tired, man. We are tired.
I'm not retired. I'm right here. I was just letting that thought get through the process, just to let everybody know it's
Hey,
it's 7:32
I
here,
have one
but
more
it's
thing.
8:32.
I have one more
Yeah,
thing.
Noel.
It was interesting. They did feature a seller that was attending the summit because he had wrapped his truck with the Whatnot logo. And I made a comment to Tracy, and I told her, it's interesting how the sellers on the app, they rely on the sellers on the app to sell the app, which in terms helps the seller. But it was funny because the seller that they were featuring, he was selling tools, and he had an image of a crawfish in the truck. So it was interesting, to say the least. They gave him a prime location for parking so everybody could see the truck.
Yeah.
I feel like he paid the valet for that spot, but
I feel like that too.
I also found that pretty crazy as someone that had a pretty large marketing budget coming on to Whatnot as a new seller. And that seller, mind you, was only on his 8th or 9th show.
Yeah.
8th or 9th show, and he spent the money to wrap his entire vehicle promoting Whatnot. I found that pretty insane. And in our eighth and ninth show, I 100% knew Whatnot was it, and it was
Yes.
going to be successful. But I would not have
I wasn't
spent
gonna spend 10 grand.
$10,000 wrapping my vehicle with Whatnot promo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know me, I'm in all eggs in one basket. That's still a lot.
Yeah.
Those eggs of his are in one basket right now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
It
Well,
was
that's a fun,
interesting.
fun end the note point. I'm guessing. Right. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm
All
getting
right.
tired.
Thank you guys for listening to us ramble on about our weekend in Austin and the
Thank
things
you.
that we learned and didn't learn, and we appreciate it.
I had fun. I'm not gonna lie. It was a good time.
I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you guys for
Good.
going and providing the opportunity to talk about it. That was really I think it was very insightful. So I'm assuming so does everybody else that joined us or are going to listen to this at some point in time in the future.
All right.
Sounds good.
Bye, everybody.
See you.
Oh, wait a
See
minute.
you,
It's the wrong
everybody.
one. Princess Wave.
There you go.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
Catch you all later.
See you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.